I'm Chris Arredondo. I'm a co-founder and director of C4, and pretty much it's a tool to improve your booking workflow. And kind of the tagline is to get rid of the sticky notes. I think back in my day, not even too long ago, probably 2.5 years ago, I was at a brokerage and we were still taking call-ins and still writing down things from carriers, carrier information on sticky notes, notepads, typing it in an Excel sheet, and then that guy who actually had it was out for the day. So no one knew where this carrier was. No one had the right information, and carriers who call in, there wasn't really a way to capture that call in. So that's kind of where C4 has evolved to. It's really more of kind of like a CRM for carrier management. I think everyone should be able to see my screen. We'll try to escape here and see. All right, Trey, can you see my screen? I'm gonna just use you to.
Yep, looks good.
Okay, great. So this is C4. We try to make the UI similar to what other tools are out there as far as DAT and things, as far as the functionality goes with origin, destination, trailer types, and things like that. There are kind of three main points to C4. Well, I guess first, what is C4? It's a carrier development tool that helps you focus on building those carrier relationships over those one-time transactions. So it's really about carrier development, building those relationships, and working on lanes and corridors instead of a load. There are kind of three main benefits here. One is C4 gives you a place to manage groups of carriers. To that, it also gives you a way to store that carrier data. And also, it's really a solution to the problem when your own carrier network doesn't solve the problem. So I'm gonna kind of walk you through a typical workflow of C4. It's actually not an ad hoc search that maybe this homepage is saying. How a lot of users are doing this is going to projects and building out a lane in a project, if you will. And a project can be anything you want it to be. It can be a lane, as long as it has an origin, destination, and a trailer type. It can be a shipment or a bundle of shipments, 40 loads a month, 200 a year. It can be something that's once a month, or maybe it's just a one-time load. So how you do this is just new project. I'm gonna just pick like Houston to Atlanta. This is the part where I usually ask, hey, what kind of lane do you run often? But there's no way we would get through 20 people. So you can select the trailer type. We've got a kind of a variety here. We've got van, reefer, flatbed. We actually just added RGN, double drop, and Conestogas about 2 weeks ago. So we're still building out that carrier base, as well as power only. We've had power only for a while, so we have a fair bit of capacity there. When I typed in this origin to destination, it creates a project name, and we try to tie that to how you speak in the real world as far as a project. Hey, do you have anyone for that Houston to Atlanta? What you can also do is maybe make it a little bit more customer specific. If maybe you have multiple Houston to Atlantas, and you want to tie that to a certain customer. If the value is high value, you can set that here. Min rate, maybe something like 800, 1600. Min max rate of your, I guess that's a really wide range. Let's not do that. Let's say something like 1200. Commodity, I guess water, the weight, something like that. And here's where you can set your volume of that project. Maybe it's one a month, twice a week. If there's specific days here, you can say Wednesday, Fridays. The packaging, maybe it's pallets, clean, no holes. Just kind of go through here, first come, first serve for any shipper or receiver notes. Now what you can start to do is, instead of scrambling through emails, trying to find out what did that customer tell me, you have all that information stored here, where you can now work through, again, a lane and a corridor, and not just like a one-time transaction. If you have kind of multiple teammates, or your brokerage has different regions, you can assign that to that certain rep here, and they'll actually get a notification that says like, hey, you've been assigned this project, and they can click it and come in here. Now I'm going to start to search capacity and start to build out this carrier base for this lane. Now what we'll show you is kind of a list of carriers here, and we actually cap it out at 200. Not sure how many I've got. I got 200 here, and the idea is to not call through 200 carriers. It's to call the best fit. So here, what kind of like how we prioritize this is one with best match, and that's really just kind of us telling you like, hey, Traveloka is a good carrier, and we'll start to score them out here on the right side. What that takes into account is the frequency, the deadhead to origin, deadhead to destination, based on the lane that the carrier gave us in relation to your lane search. If I wanted to kind of sort this list by frequency, maybe I'm trying to find someone who runs this lane daily or something like that, and that's exactly what frequency is. It's how often a carrier runs a particular lane, and we actually grade that in kind of 3 tiers of daily, service days, and then rate per week. We probably have a full page of daily on this popular Houston to Atlanta lane. Yeah, so we've probably got 2 pages here of strong results. As we get to the second page, you'll start to see like the actual service days that this carrier runs this lane. So you can, maybe if your shipment is every Monday and Tuesday or every Monday and Wednesday, you can kind of partner up with that carrier based on their preferences and what they want and what they like. If I go back to best match, what I can also do is sort this by head haul or back haul, so really the haul direction of the carrier. What this takes into account is the headquarters of the carrier. So if I have, maybe my shipment is high volume, low lead time, maybe a carrier with a high amount of trucks that's also based near the origin, maybe that carrier is more likely to have capacity on short notice. So we'll actually rank this out by radius to the origin. Looks like there's a bunch in Houston. A surprise there. If I wanted to kind of look at backhaul carriers, maybe my shipment's a little bit more, or my customer is kind of on the low end on a rate, and maybe I want to find a backhaul carrier here. So we'll do the same thing as well. As you scroll down, you'll start to get to the carriers that are a little bit further out of Atlanta. We'll hop back to this and we'll close out the haul direction just so we don't get confused here. Now kind of what you see is maybe this carrier that's in bold with a network icon. What that is your carriers in your network. So all of our clients, they'll provide their carriers to us, and we'll do 2 things. One, we'll map them. And what that is you'll be able to see the carriers that are already set up with you and complied. So you don't have to worry about, hey, is this guy set up with me? Dig through your MS, and then maybe you don't even know their MC or something like that. So we'll call that out for you, as well as you can sort by those carriers too. So if you just wanted to see your carriers, you can click that and you'll see that list, or you can click all carriers, and this is kind of the consortium approach. The second part is we'll onboard those carriers. We typically get around 70-75% or so carriers onboarded from your carrier list. Leaves room for those carriers that aren't included. Maybe they're an everywhere carrier. They'll say, hey, I'll go everywhere. You know, in reality, I can't really map that guy, so we don't really want those types of carriers. The other is just kind of removing all the ones who are bus drivers, or maybe they don't really run brokered freight or things like that. I'm gonna pause. Trey, what do you recommend? Should I ask questions here or keep moving?
Well, it just depends. If you have more to show, keep going. If people have questions or are curious about anything they've seen so far, jump right in.
Gotcha. So I guess just to highlight here, a common question that we usually get is, how do we build this carrier base? And I kind of mentioned it earlier. It's from our customers. So you'll provide a list of carriers, whether it's 5,000, 10,000, 1,000 carriers, whatever it is. And that's kind of the consortium approach there. The benefit of it is really, maybe you only run Traveloka on one lane. Maybe it's just Houston to Atlanta. And they're already set up with you. But the benefit of sharing your carriers too is now you get to see all the lanes that this carrier runs. If I open this carrier, I'm able to see all the lanes that this carrier runs, and kind of use this as an introductory tool to working more with this carrier, doing more business with the same carrier. It looks like they have reefers. Maybe you have a load that also runs daily, and it's Kansas City to Atlanta. And this is a good tool to try to do more business with your existing carriers. So that's just one of the common questions. Let's kind of go back to projects. So let's say this carrier, I'm going through this list, and I end up calling this carrier. We have a few engagement tools here. Like, did you reach the carrier? Who'd you talk to? The conversation go, maybe it was a 1-star, maybe you said, hey, don't call me, lose my number. Or it was like 5, that was a really great rate, I want to keep working with this carrier. Anyone in your team and on your account can see that action that was recorded. You're not stepping on each other's toes. Let's say I want to go a step further and actually add and capture that conversation. If I click this note button, ignore all these, sorry about that. We can quickly add a note here to this carrier. Maybe they can run it for 1300 or something like that. So now I have all this information stored in one place and not on sticky notes, not on Excel sheets, not in an email, where my whole team can start to see this interaction with these carriers. If I want to keep working with them, I can come in here. If I need to find that project that I'm trying to work with them on, I can type that in, simply add it to that project. Maybe KAT was a good carrier too, and then maybe let's just go to MUA, funny name. Now I can start to build out my carrier base based on carriers that fit the freight that I have. So now when I come into projects every day, I don't have to like scramble, who was that carrier? Who did I talk to? What rate was it at? I can quickly come to projects, see these carriers listed here. I can even make notes on this project. Maybe it's a new lane. Maybe it's customer wants to be under 1400 or something. And you can start to build this database of your shipments, work through lanes and corridors and not those one-time transactions. There's another way here that we also give you a way to capture those inbound conversations to where you're taking those inbound phone calls and your load postings and turning those carriers into partnerships. I think a lot of time in my past is a carrier would call in 2 days ago, the load was covered, but I didn't have anywhere to store that information, so I'd write it down and I have no idea who called me 2 days ago. So we give you a tool to actually do that. So you can come up here and search for any carrier. As long as they have a DOT and at minimum, I believe, a phone number or an email, they'll be in C4. Whether or not they have lanes is different, but they should be in C4. We're tied into the FMCSA, so at a minimum, DOT and either a phone number or email be in C4. There's something like 540,000 carriers inside of C4. Let's say I had Houston to Atlanta posted out there and the load was covered. Maybe Summit Trucking calls in. I can quickly type that carrier up here, ask them for their carrier name. Maybe it's like, hey, yeah, that load is covered. What rate can you do it for? Okay, you can do it for 1400. Great, that sounds like a good rate. I can make that work for you next time. Let me add you to that project. And now I know who to go to where I'm taking those inbound calls and I'm putting them in a place that's not lost, where I can start to build my carrier base that way. If I come back to projects, Houston to Atlanta, here's that carrier Summit Trucking. So now I can start to work with these carriers on that relationship level. One more feature here that I kind of want to get into is, let's say that project is already built. Let's say it's this Bismarck to Provo, nobody runs this lane, kind of some preset carriers here. Instead of calling them, once you've built that relationship, this industry still favors a phone call and conversation over technology. I think MacroPoint is finally there where carriers are starting to use the apps and things. But here what you can do is click this check capacity button. And what that does is it sends an email to the carriers to kind of pick up where you left off on that last conversation. Maybe they said, yeah, I can do 1300, but maybe that was like a week ago or so. And you just want to kind of stay in touch with where that carrier's at. So when you click this check capacity button, you can email these carriers and it'll ask them like, hey, do you have any trucks this week? If they do, that rate will appear right here. So you're able to kind of have a good pulse on where those carriers are positioned at for the week. So maybe your load comes up on Thursday, you can actually book it with that carrier who has a truck. That's pretty much everything as far as the workflow. Again, C4 is really about building the carrier relationships and building out your carrier base and things like that. So does anyone have any other questions or anything I can help answer? Just to kind of pick up right there, kind of a common question is where does our data come from? It kind of goes into how we build our carrier base. Our data comes directly from our customers, our clients, brokerages. And then maybe another one is how often is our carrier information updated? I think what I hear a lot is there are a lot of other tools that sometimes the information is outdated, or maybe they don't run that lane anymore. So we actually have a way to where you can update that. So it's theory, C4 is updated daily by our users who come in, and maybe it's a dispatch name that's incorrect. There's a lot of turnover in this industry, a lot of companies moving and closing and things like that. So you can actually report that information to us, and we'll be able to update that carrier within 10 minutes. So carriers are updated daily. We do like a month, every month we run a check of carriers. We actually did a survey of, it was like 250 carriers where lanes actually didn't change for a carrier. They just added one during produce season. It takes a really big shift in a carrier's business to where they don't run that lane anymore.
Hey, Chris, I got 2 questions that came in, so let me ask those and you can jump into those. So Eric asked, so carriers with unsatisfactory rating is updated automatically through the integration with the FMCSA?
So the unsatisfactory and conditional ratings, we have that on our roadmap to take in, but what we do take in is the out of service, unauthorized, inactive carriers. Those are purged every month to where our system updates those, and it'll remove them. We're notified to go update, check on that carrier. Hey, is it you need an action plan, or what is it? And we'll kind of verify that carrier and follow up with them that way.
Okay, that's great. And then, and Eric, if you have a follow-up question on that, go ahead and type it in and we'll get to that. Josh asks, does C4 show asset count by type of trailer type, or does it just show a blanket number for each carrier/MC?
I'm not sure if I understand that. I will try to. Let's see.
Does it break up the asset count by vans and flatbeds and reefers?
No. So we don't have it broken up that way. But let's say it was DTC Trucking. If I open their full profile here, and they had, looks like they only have vans. So we'll show you if they have additional equipment here under the full profile. So if they have Houston and Bowling Green and might also have a reefer, we'll list that out as well. We'll list out all the equipment. And this information comes directly from the carrier. There's no kind of data source or anything. It's straight from the carrier. We really focus on not changing their behavior. So we don't make them log into a portal or a platform or anything. So the trailer types tend to be really accurate.
Excellent. Hey, Russ, how are you doing? Good to see you.
I think he's on mute.
Yep, we see him. He looks good.
Was there another question, or?
Eric had a follow-up. He said, just to confirm, it's not a real-time link. If someone goes out of service today, it might not be updated today, meaning we shouldn't use this as a carrier validation tool.
So if it's really rare that the carrier is, I don't think we've had that yet, but we do have that action in here. If it was, I think it's incorrect lane, it might be even out of service or something like that, that we have in here. Again, it is updated every month. I think we're pushing to do that every 2 weeks or so, probably in the future.
Okay, and that's all the questions that we have. Oh, we got one more coming. Hang on. Oh, no, that's it. So one question that I had was, what's the process for a customer getting set up on this? How long does that generally take to start, using it and seeing the value?
Yeah, so that's kind of where C4 stands out, is that the onboarding process is very quick. It's you started, click a link, enter your name, phone number, MC, email, and you'll be routed to the actual platform. We don't require you to enter your carriers or anything like that for the first 14 days. So it's really just as soon as you sign up, you're in C4. And after that process, if you move forward with a pro plan, we'll onboard your carriers. That typically takes, I don't know, maybe we can reach out to 600 carriers a day or so. So we onboard fairly quickly. Within 2 weeks, your list of 3,000 carriers will be in C4.
All right, excellent. Are there any other questions?
There was another question that sometimes comes up, is how many carriers are in C4? As far as lanes, we have over 120,000 lanes. And in terms of carriers, we have just over 540,000. I think in terms of like carriers with lanes, I want to say it's somewhere around, I want to say like 25,000 or so carriers in here. We pretty much any lane you search, there's coverage in there. I think we've heard from some customers that they haven't worked with a carrier in 10 years, and they gave us their carriers, and they saw they were on a lane, and they connected right away, and was no more posting, and they just run that relationship with that carrier. So pretty powerful.
Excellent. And Chris and Russ, you guys have a fan on here. So T, or we'll call him Mr. T, says it works seamlessly with Ascend TMS. C4 is the best capacity manager there is and well priced. So you guys will have to send him a check in the mail for that one. For sure. That's excellent. Well, guys, we really appreciate it. We're getting close to time here. If you guys want to just close it up, that'd be great. And
sure.
And thank you so much for participating today. Really glad to have you.
Yeah, I'm all just to tell you about what's coming to C4. Where C4 has really moved and evolved into a CRM for carrier management. We've got tasks coming out. I believe that's going to be out next week, where you can update the next carrier activity, as well as find carriers that fit your need with Carrier Finder. So you can search that database of 500,000 carriers based on the headquarters, the truck count, and also the trailer type. What's next? Like I said earlier, the first 14 days are on us. I'll send this presentation out to y'all too. If you want kind of like an extended Q&A, you can click here for another demo or a Q&A, or you can get started by clicking this link.